We're here with Brian Malow. He is a...
Mallow.
What did I say?
Malow.
And how do you say it?
Mallow.
Mallow. I'm
like
sorry.
If there were two L's in it, everyone would get it right. It's like marshmallow.
Okay.
Mallow, right?
Okay. Brian Malow.
Shallow. Mallow.
That's your word.
Yeah. You don't have to use that. I'm just for pronunciation purposes.
He's a stand-up comedian who...
You don't want to start over? You don't want to
uses-
include all that? Can we
that's fine.
take that out and fix that in post? No,
All right, we can.
so. No, that's okay. Whatever.
And he uses science as his material in comedy routines. Where do you get your material and how do you get it?
Well, I get it just from my, like you said, from science.
Mm-hmm.
But I get it just from the world around me.
Do you read books? Do you talk to scientists? Do you go to conferences? Do you bug them in labs at universities?
I don't bug them in labs. I do all the others. I read books and magazines, and a lot of stuff I consume is online. And so I immerse myself in science stuff just because I like it. It's the subject I'm most interested in. So I keep up with as much as I can. And I do talk to scientists a lot, and I've interviewed a lot of scientists. I had a talk show many years ago when this was kind of young on the internet, 10 years, in 99 and 2000, I had a live streaming video talk show, and I did it for about a year and a half, and I interviewed a lot of scientists. So yeah, I've always enjoyed talking to scientists and just learning about science. And then hopefully some of that inspires some ideas for some humor, and sometimes it's not right then. Sometimes it's just sort of goes in, and then later it might emerge, maybe I'm having a spontaneous conversation with you, and something funny comes out, and you write it down. Comics carry notebooks around. And so it can come from anything.
Do you get your material and then you work it over into a routine? Or how does that work?
Well...
Or does that just come to your mind? I mean, is it an automatic process?
It's both. Some things come out fully formed, like just something that comes out and that's really funny and that's it. Sometimes it's something that you go, oh, that's a good concept and it needs a little work. Also, if something comes out in a conversation, it's in a context of a conversation and it makes sense. If I want to present it on stage, somehow I'm going to have to reconstruct the context so that they can understand it. So like I said, sometimes it comes out fully formed and it's already a joke, and other times you just it involves some writing. And other times, I sit down and just try to write something.
Who's your audience?
Everybody.
So you don't only go for the scientists, you go for everybody?
Yeah, well, I guess I would say there's two basic audiences. I perform to specialized groups. I go to conferences, and so I might do an event for the American Chemical Society or a group of physicists, or in this case, a bunch of online science communicators. And sometimes I perform for just a general audience. I might do a show at a museum or at a comedy club, but it's advertised as an evening of science humor.
Right.
So the crowd that comes out, maybe it's not the most general audience, but anyone could come.
Okay.
But that's a little self-selecting, so people are going to come if they think science comedy sounds interesting.
Right.
But I can perform for any audience. To the specialized groups, I can play to their special knowledge. And I don't have to explain things. I can speak to them in their language, and I can say things that they will get. And then to a general audience, might be just a little different, where if you want that joke to work, you might have to explain a little, but hopefully explain it in a humorous way.
What was your interest in this conference? You didn't come here to do the act last night as a, Anton and Bora didn't come to you and say, we want to hire you to do that act.
Exactly. They didn't
you came here.
hire me. Like a lot of conferences contact me and ask me to come, and they have other speakers, and they thought, hey, a humorous speaker would be good. No, this is one that I had heard of the past couple years and sounded really interesting. Also, some of the people here are friends of mine that I know from other types of conferences. So it just sounded like a great event. So I have a blog. I'm not a real consistent blogger yet, but that's one of my goals. Yeah, I have a blog, but I've kind of dropped the ball with it a little bit. But that's one of my goals for this year, is to be a little more consistent blogging. But I also make science videos for Time Magazine's website, time.com. Malow/video, if you want to go directly there. And if you do a search on my name, Brian Malow, Malow, 1L, then you can find my videos there. They're also in my website at sciencecomedian.com. But so I've done some other stuff. I make content. I have videos on YouTube. I have stuff at Time Magazine's site, and this radio show that Neil deGrasse Tyson does. I've just started contributing some small audio pieces, and those are available as a podcast. So I'm also, so this is a conference for me. This is an online, this is about science communication online, and so it was a chance for me to mingle with these people, meet a bunch of really neat people, and learn a lot, and get into, and that's what it was. It was packed with amazing conversations and so many interesting people. Okay. Yeah. So I was here for me, and I was looking forward to the opportunity to perform. And I presented I did a session here too. Oh, okay. And along with Joanne Manister, co-presented. Oh, that's right, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And it was about communicating science with humor. And like the main thing, it's an issue that it wasn't a workshop and we didn't present. It was one of the ones that, like the unconference style, we really wanted it to be a dialogue, a conversation about this issue. It's like, making science entertaining, if you make it too entertaining, like some stuff on television, it's just explosions. Where's the science? Like they lose, in order to be entertaining, there's not much science content. On the other hand, you don't want it to be so dry that it's not engaging. So it's kind of a tough issue. Where's the sweet spot there? How do you make it interesting, but also teach some science or present some science?
Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
When you use, there are different ways to get science across. You know, you can just write a story, you can do a profile, you can do a video, you can do audio, you can make a picture, a movie. Where does the humor fit in? What does humor get across, and where does it grab your audience where the other stuff doesn't?
Well, all communicators are at least trying to be engaging. You want to, you have to engage someone's attention.
We're talking about that interactive part.
Yeah. And I don't know, humor is a strange and complex thing. I don't know how much, I certainly don't know formally that much about what humor is. And I know that, frankly, I don't think we know that much about it as far as like how it works. But, we know that there's, people always like to, with speeches, they seem to always like to maybe open with a joke. Hey, make them laugh, get them on your side, and then lead into something. So I don't know, it's an icebreaker. We always hear that. I think in some ways I do feel this, that some of my material has some educational content, but not all of it. Some of it, it just plays with the language of science, and it's funny, I think, because of the voice I like to write in that uses for analogies and metaphors science concepts and words. So I feel like even if I'm not explicitly imparting information or teaching you something, that it still might serve a purpose if I get you to laugh. So many people think science is scary or boring, and if I can get you to laugh at a subject that you don't think you're interested in, and you think people are intimidated, exactly, that maybe I can break a little of that, and it's like you come out of there going, see, like, that didn't hurt, did it? That was all right. It was funny, and it's like, you know what, there was a little science in there. Science can be fun. Right. So I do feel like possibly, if I want to attribute such noble aspects to what I do, that maybe it can serve that kind of function where it's good. And then also, hey, if you make people laugh, maybe that's just good in its own way. And all I ever set out to do to begin was to be a comedian, not an educator. Although I've often been told that I would be a good teacher. Like that was something that I didn't know if that was a way for people to tell me you should stop being a comedian, you should consider being a teacher. But I think that I've always liked turning people on to things. Books or movies or people, writers or interesting people. So in that way, I understand I'm a very curious person, and I love sharing and the stuff that I learn and turning people on to stuff. So I guess that's the teacher in all of us. And probably everyone at this conference is like that. All these science communicators are driven to share what they know.
Right.
They're driven to learn it and they're driven to share it.
Right.
And I'm like that too. And if you...
and your personal approach is that this is how you pass it on through humor because that suits you the best.
Yeah, but it's not something that I made a conscious decision to do that. Okay. I'm just being myself.
Right.
So this is the voice I speak in. This is sort of the voice I speak in. If you'd caught me before the past couple of days of conference, it would have been slightly different. No sleep, no voice. But yeah, this is just how I tend to be. Like I always like the phrase sense of humor because it sort of is like a sense. Because I feel like I have a sense for humorous potential. And it kind of surprises me, like some stuff, like I said, you construct and you work on, but some stuff just flows out of you.
Right.
And so I don't know where it comes from. It just came out of me. But for some reason, in some situations, sometimes I see the potential to say something funny, and it's very natural to me. I would think it's the same thing that everyone is thinking. But when I say it, everyone laughs, so apparently it surprised them.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting. Apparently I perceive this, like some things seem really obvious. It seems like you're saying the most obvious thing, but it surprises people. A lot of comedy is about surprise. So if it elicits a laugh, it suggests that it took them by surprise. Yeah.
And then you get to them.
Yeah. So I do like imparting real information, and more since I really started calling myself a science comedian, that I've felt an obligation to impart more information. So I am interested now in doing more and more of that. I still like just being silly within the realm of science, but I also enjoy telling some stories and making them fun. They don't have to be funny stories on their own. That would be my job, to tell the story in a way that it's funny and yet tells you how Louis Pasteur developed the germ theory of disease. There's nothing inherently funny in that. So it's up to me to tell it in a way that comes off funny and entertaining, and then and making it an interesting story.
Okay.
I guess it's just my way of making something interesting, where some filmmaker might tell a scary story, and that's their style and their voice, and it's just. But I never set out to do it I didn't even decide to be a science comedian like that. It was a very natural evolution. I was already doing my comedy from the beginning, just because I love science fiction and science. It informed my comedy. Ultimately, I did realize, hey, I should cut away the other stuff that doesn't fit and focus on that. So. Okay. Did I answer the question?
Yeah,
what was the question? Now how far are we done? Is that only 8 minutes?
That's about 12. So now we're good. We got a video and a half.
Robert Krulwich said something that was really interesting, because I always wondered, as a writer, do I write like this, or do I write like that, or can I write? I'm really poor at writing feature stories, fluff pieces. They should be easy, but I can't do them. I have a horrible time doing it. I'm really good at writing stories that involve numbers. It's just easy. My head works that way. And some people are better at this, better at that, and I always wondered, can you pretzel yourself into this and then become good at that? And can you then pretzel yourself into that also and become good at that also? And what he said is, no, you can't. Basically, because there is this act of creativity involved, and that exposes, how did he say that? You have to do how your soul is, or something like that.
The word soul was involved.
Yeah, the word soul was involved. I remember that too. But he basically said, there is a part of you in there, and you can, it eventually there's just one way you can do it, or there might be a progression, there might be an evolution, but then you are evolving also, and it just goes the way you are. I mean, it's part of you because it's your product.
I think that,
and I thought that was really interesting because I always wondered how people can do this and that and be good at all of this, but maybe they're good at all of this because they're not really passionate about anything.
Yeah, you know, you always hear this thing about artists trying to find their voice.
Right.
And I think that it's about revealing yourself. And
right.
it's like finding your voice is shedding all the influences, because, you know, through
right.
our lives and our education,
right.
we get exposed to all these different styles, and some resonate with you more than others, and some you sort of try on for size, and you really
right.
like something and you try to write like that, and maybe
right.
it works and maybe it doesn't. And I also thought there's always something interesting that there's some kinds of art that you love, but you can't do it that way. Even though it resonates with you, it's like,
right.
I love this, but I can't do it. And
right.
here's something I like that I can possibly do.
Right.
So there's this process of finding your own voice, which is really finding yourself, tapping
right.
into who you are
right.
very naturally, and learning to let what's genuinely you flow
right.
through. I think
right.
there's something about the rapport that I have with an audience
right.
is very much like the rapport that any
right.
two people have.
Right.
That sometimes you meet someone and you really click, and
right.
other times you don't. And when you don't, whether you're trying to impress someone
really
or you just
hard.
don't agree, then your best self sometimes doesn't shine through.
No.
You get closed off. But then sometimes you connect with someone
right.
and you're very relaxed,
right.
and your best self flows through, and you
right.
speak most eloquently
or
most humorously.
Right.
And so I think to the extent that you reveal yourself, and that's also an important thing in most art, that somehow that's what humans connect with.
Right.
They connect with other humans, and the more you reveal,
right.
and so the more honest you are, and the more yourself you are,
right.
that's your best bet. If that
right.
seems to be what Crowridge was saying, which, by the way, his presentation was awesome.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah. I have this strange thing that I encounter every once in a while, which is I'm the one comedian at the event, but there's other speakers that are very funny. And I'm like, he's not even a comedian. I don't know if I'm going to be as funny as that. And he was funny, and more than funny, he was very interesting.
Yeah.
It's like great content and funny. So it's like,
because he can. Well, I think what he does, he paints pictures with sound.
Yes.
And he can make sounds, and that is something I wish I could do, and I can't. I can do it, I can hear it in my head, you know, but I can't make them. But he can.
Yeah.
And they come off just right at the right time.
Well, he's very good, and you know what? He's been at it a long time. He's
yes.
very good at what he does, and he's worked at it for a long time.
Yes, but you know, we talked about that, didn't we? How little appreciation he gets for this. And I asked him, you know, how do you relieve this? You know, what's the relief valve? And he said, how did he say it? I have a few good angels in my head, and they start talking to me. Oh, you're awesome. You are so good. You are the best. And that's how he builds himself up, because, you know, he gets smashed down with a 2x4 so often. And in that industry, that is absolutely true, you know. You're a star, you're not.
Yeah.
And that's a star, you're not.
That is one thing about comedy and a lot of other related fields, and it's that you have to be able to handle rejection, because
yes.
you're going to get a lot of it. No matter how successful you are along the way, you're going to
yes.
be rejected. You're going to try for a lot of things, be turned down for a lot of them,
yes.
and you have to be okay with that. You have to be able to handle it, and some people can't. It's like
yes.
rejection is hard, and it doesn't make you feel good
right.
to want something and have somebody else get it, and somebody that you don't think deserves it as much as you were, but whatever reason. So you have to really want it, and you have to be doing what you want to be doing, and
you have to be able to take it and take something from it and make something for you out of it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
so
you're
that's
toast.
Yeah, and that's why I love this. It's what I'm more myself than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in my personal evolution, I'm doing what I really like to do. I love all the kind of content that was here and all the people I met. So yeah, okay. I think I'm kind of happy in the place I am right now.